Welcome back to Secrets Behind the Stars, the corner of the internet where fame, feeling, and truth brush shoulders under the same bright light. Tap subscribe, hit join to be part of our growing family, and tell us what you think in the comments, because today's story isn't just glitz and headlines. It's the page of a love that turned, a chapter torn and rewritten, and a man who is learning to breathe again. The spotlight has swung toward Turkish star Cenk Torun, but the push didn't come from the rumor mill, the paparazzi, or a careless leak. It came from the one voice he could never ignore, his mother. For months she stayed quiet, watching from the wings, letting the waves break around her son without stepping in. Then, suddenly, like a bell in a sleeping city, she spoke. Her words were both gentle and sharp as steel, and they made the ground under the tabloids shift. Mahassine is over. Life begins again for Cenk. It wasn't just an update. It rang like a release. In one sweep, whispers gathered themselves into lines of ink, and speculation crystallized into certainty. The long-discussed romance between Cenk Torun and Mahassine Merabet had come to a close. Everyone could sense it was coming. Now the truth carried a mother's pulse. Her message wasn't just information. It was a plea and a prayer, a protest and a benediction all at once. She wrote that surface sparkle can't satisfy a mind that craves substance, that her son had always chosen depth even when the shallow road was easier. The words felt like measured verse. They sketched Cenk not as a headline or a glossy cover, but as a man pressing through the fog of adoration in search of something honest, something that returns your heartbeat instead of echoing it back. Those close to the family say she had watched the light dim in him. She noticed the small fractures first. The unanswered calls that piled into silence, the empty chair at ordinary dinners, the texts that arrived late with apologies that sounded more weary than sincere. She feared, as the saying goes, an emotional cheating of the soul, the slow draining of someone who gives and keeps returning to an empty well. When she finally let her voice out, it wasn't to add noise to the story of her son, it was a vow of rescue. It was a mother stepping out of the dark wings and back into the aisle lights to claim the child she knew, the man the public thought it knew, the artist who needed to remember himself. A friend of the family put it simply, almost painfully, she believes Cenk poured too much of himself into a love that yielded too little. She wants him to find his balance again, his worth, his calm, his strength. The sentiment floated through the entertainment world like a confession and a promise. What happened next might have gone unnoticed if the internet wasn't a room where everything is noticed, a single heart lit red beneath a supportive post. It was just a like, that tiny press of a button that turns a gray outline into crimson. But it was enough. Italian reporters called it a silent assent, an agreement made in a public square without a single word added. It felt like proof no one wanted yet everyone expected. The break was real, the wound not imaginary, and something like renewal already rustling in the debris. And while we follow every pulse of stories like these, a quick reminder, if this kind of honest, behind-the-curtain truth is what you come here for, show your support for Secrets Behind the Stars by subscribing and tapping like. Your voice writes these narratives with us, one comment at a time. In the last few months, Cenk slipped away from the loud corners of celebrity life. No velvet ropes. No midnight snapshots in crowded rooms. His posts now land like postcards from solitude. A horizon where the sea wears gray, a desk softened by scripts, a coffee mug near the margin, an underlined passage, and only one word beneath it all, reborn. He has settled, at least for a while, in Spain, far from noisy proof-of-life appearances and closer to work that whispers instead of shouts. Insiders say he is cocooned in new projects that tug on what he really cares about, less about being seen and more about saying something. He's building quietly, one source told us. Producing, writing, choosing carefully. He's walking alone right now, but for once he's truly unafraid of the silence. In those still frames, followers recognized something that echoed in their own chests, a man singed by exposure who had decided to rise anyway. Just when the hum began to fade, an unexpected tremor came from Italy. La Repubblica ran an interview with his mother, and the lines were almost operatic. That woman was not a light for my son, but a shadow, she said, her voice neither bitter nor fragile, simply resolved. My son was tired, but now he breathes again. The conversation peeled away the varnish that tabloids love to paint. A mother feels what a mother feels, she insisted. We know the difference between loving and using. My son's heart carried a weight, and it is learning to let go. There was dignity there, and there was fire. The picture of a mother defending the man beneath the image, confronting with grace the fantasy people had dressed him in. One of the most arresting confessions landed with the softness of a prayer and the force of a judgment. He loved with his conscience, not his heart. Even his conscience is exhausted. It sounded like poetry, but it cut like truth. After those words rippled out, everyone waited to see if Cenk would enter the fray. He didn't choose a thread of text or a TV slot. He answered in the language he's been speaking lately, image. A stark black and white picture arrived on his feed. A lone figure standing on a windswept edge, coat pressing back, hair pulled by the invisible hand of the gale. One word beneath it, the same he had used before, reborn. The post moved like electricity. Messages poured in, not only in Turkish or English but in languages he's never spoken. Rise again. We're here. Be well. Rise. Suddenly, the same newspapers that had once measured his life in visible romances and fleeting headlines changed their tone. Cenk Torun is not a cover to flip past, one Italian critic wrote. He is a man writing his second act. Another column drew a line in ink. Mahassine magnified the image. His mother recovered the man. Whether fair or not, that sentiment announced a shift. The transformation wasn't only private. Directors started taking longer meetings. Producers mentioned him in rooms he wasn't in. Audiences stopped arguing about his looks and started arguing about his choices. Beneath the familiar face, they sensed a current they'd missed before, a seriousness that had always been there, now unafraid to show itself. As always, if these are the stories that keep you leaning forward, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Secrets Behind the Stars. We uncover the ache behind the applause, the relief behind the red carpet smile. Tell us, when a mother steps into the storm for her son, is that pure love, or a line crossed? Your thoughts shape this space. And then, as if the universe couldn't resist stirring the waters again, Turkish media added their spark. An insider close to one of Cenk's past co-stars, someone who knew him back when the laughter on set was easy and tomorrow seemed indestructible, reportedly murmured, "May he find the light he deserves." Just 7 words, and the comment sections did what they do best, stitched speculation into memory, nostalgia into possibility. Fans remembered a different version of him, lighter, unbruised, smiling without calculation. Was that door truly shut? Was it even about romance, or simply about a time when his heart walked unguarded? In the final stretch of her Italian interview, they say his mother's eyes glossed. The sentence that left her mouth then was the one that ran like a banner across 2 countries. A mother cannot protect her child through silence. Silence is the deepest betrayal. I will never again hide my love for my son. The line did what only a handful of sentences can do. It divided the room and united the story. Some lifted her up, calling it the clarity of a parent who refuses to watch her child drown in public while pretending not to see. Others criticized the exposure, arguing that certain feelings should be kept behind closed doors. But regardless of which side you stood on, the chorus agreed on the refrain: whatever comes next, Cenk is not returning as the man he was. Behind the curtain, a new rumor breathed itself into being. There is talk, soft, hopeful, almost secret, that mother and son might find themselves on the same set in Madrid, quietly working on a project stitched together from their separate strengths. Not a melodrama about romance, but a story of inheritance and rebuilding, a narrative that lets a man reach for his future while acknowledging who gave him his first steps. He isn't a beautiful face you pass in a hallway anymore, one source told us. He's someone who fell, and refused to stay on the floor. He learned. He is standing up different. The word that has trailed him in these months feels like the right one to leave you with tonight: rebirth. It isn't shiny. It isn't quick. It's work and doubt and the decision to keep choosing the next day. Maybe that's the piece worth carrying with you beyond the glow of your screen. We don't always get to decide who leaves or who stays. But we can decide who we are after the door closes. Sometimes the kinder story is the one we write for ourselves when the noise fades, the one we allow to be quiet and honest, the one that does not need to be admired to be true. Maybe that is what Cenk is building now, far from the parties, closer to the page. Thank you for spending your time with us here at Secrets Behind the Stars. Subscribe, like, and add your voice below. Your engagement is the lifeblood of this community, and your perspective is the heartbeat that keeps these stories alive. Tell us who you want us to dive into next. Which tale would you like us to unspool? Which couple should we examine under the tender, relentless light of truth? Until then, be kind, stay curious, and remember, even when the cameras flash, every heart keeps its own meter, love, loss, and the courage to begin again.